A single solitary peak just from the land, just on the southern border of Alfheim. You can see it for miles around. Its advantageous position allows a view of all the lands, the plains of Iridos, the fiery peaks in the north, Karn, Craig, and the Stonebreaker Glacier, even Slate off to the east. Shale. But here at the summit, at the peak of this massive mountain, the Needle, lies a fortress. Since the beginning of the invasion, Karn and the tribes of Alfheim have held this position. A position that grants said vision, said opportunity to respond before the enemy can even make an attack. And in the years since the war began, since the invasions first started, it has been the key to every victory fought. But now, with the arrival of the Convocation joining the fray, its position has become a burden. Supplies are nearly impossible to reach the top of this peak. A small pass, the Shattered Pass, only 5 men wide, is what allows the passage of said goods and of soldiers. And you are now quarantined and alone, isolated from the rest of the fleet, the rest of the army. At the base of the mountain, an army approaches. From above, the Convocation flies. We start in the command hall. Your commander, Commander Rowan, stands over a cold gray table arrayed with a map, soldiers, little plastic figures, approaching a single spire, atop which you now rest. He shakes his head. It does not look good. At the base, you can see them approaching with trebuchets. From the sky, the griffins and the riders harry you daily. It is imperative that this fort not fall. For not only does it defend the borders of Alfheim and of Karn, the Lady Celise Grey is here as well, caught during a diplomacy mission. The daughter of the king. King Rowan looks up at you three. Suggestions? Anything?
We speak to them. We call this off. Enough is enough. Many have died.
Darius looks over the map and reviewing what's all there. They won't let us go. Not today. This would be a decisive victory. It would send a message. Talking won't do anything.
The only thing I can imagine would work, or has the faintest possibility of working, is small-scale guerrilla tactics or something. Sabotage, some kind of just sneak past the front lines and maybe disable the trebuchets somehow or do something.
Rowan would rub his beard very stubbly. This man isn't an elf. He's a human commander sent to you by the King of Karn to hold this position. And as he's rubbing his face, looking down at the horde that is approaching you, he looks up and says, "If we surrender, this is over. The war ends. Holding this fort, I will not be the one to end the war." And he would look at you, Lufarin. Now, do you have anything else to add of use?
Seems like the time of use has been long past. You all are locked into this decision, and I am unfortunately the one that has to partake in it and watch this all unfold.
When they capture us, you'll be killed right next to us. If you're going to stand here as one of us.
Boy, I've fought in many wars. I've been fighting in wars since probably before you were born. I'm quite good at it. I'm just over it. They don't ever solve anything. There is no winners in a war. There's only the side that stands and the side that doesn't. It rarely matters.
Then stand.
I'm standing now.
And to that he just kind of nod, like, good.
I would look to Commander Roland and be like, are you sure, Commander, that there's anything that we can do? Reach out to the Convocation. Rowan, sorry. I'm telling you that this isn't going to end how you want it to. Our tribes are starving, but we hunger for the wrong things. We hunger for power. That's not what Alfheim needs to quench their hunger. We live in a beautiful forest. That's all we've ever needed. Why now? Why this war?
The doors would open behind you, and Lady Celeste Grey would walk through, the princess. And hearing your words as you say them, she would shake her head and say, a storm is coming and we must strengthen ourselves to survive it. I'm sure you've heard it said already, Lufarin, among the commanders and the captains, a storm is coming. We don't know when, we don't know how, but the shamans all say that with it, many great nations will fall, and only the strong will survive, thus we must expand. We are at our peak, we're at our most powerful. We must take what we can to prepare for the storm.
My apologies, Lady Celeste, Lady Grey. It's just, I've been alive through many storms that have raged through Alfheim. We've weathered them all without stretching our borders.
She would nod and say, we weathered them, barely, but none like what is coming. Do not apologize for speaking your mind, Lufarin. You're here for a reason. I do not know if you know, but I asked for your transfer to this position.
Len would kind of listen intently, and he would sort of maybe reach into one of his maybe sort of custom-made pockets or something in his and it would just sort of pull out a pipe and just begin to smoke it while these guys are talking.
Yep.
And what would the lady have us do in this dire circumstance?
She'd kind of sigh and look down at the table. She's standing next to you all now. Hold your position for as long as you can. We have reinforcements coming. I've sent word with our ravens, but they will not arrive for a few days at the very least. Until that time, we must try and hold as much as we can. If this fort is taken, it is a devastating blow. If I am taken, the war is over. They can kill me. The alliance would dissolve. Remember, our two nations are only bound by a single marriage pact. But if I'm taken and held ransom, my father, I am his only child. they could force him to his knees with that.
"791 years, Lady Grey. That is how long I've lived in Alfheim. I am near the end of my life. I remember the first trees sprouting in Alfheim. I've watched them grow. I've watched our people grow. And one thing I would not like to see in my lifetime, although I've seen many, is Alfheim fall. Do not intend to be living and see that happen. I might not agree with your war, but the people of Alfheim are always what has been important to me, and I will stand and fight with every breath for it."
She'd nod at this. Obviously, she definitely agrees with you. Karn's at stake too. The empire that it is, the kingdom, and that is. If Alfheim falls, Karn falls. The war ends. They lose their lands. They lose everything. So she knows what's his risk as well as you do, and she would just nod at that. And she would look over at Leon, and she'd say, "Well, what would you propose then as well? What are your thoughts on the whole situation?"
He'd sort of blow that Lord of the Rings style just huge circular puff of smoke in the air, and he would look over and look back at the table. The one thing I can imagine is, well, to confirm, the biggest threats here is the massive amount of soldiers. We can't break their lines. The trebuchets, which are their reinforces, as long as they have that, we're basically stuck. And the Convokers are the wild card. We have no way of dealing with them unless they come down to the ground. There's many factors here, and I don't know how to take it. I can imagine ways of maybe inconveniencing or distracting or doing something to the ground units, but the Convocation is not something I know how to deal with.
Speak your mind. What's your idea? It's maybe the beginning of something.
Typically speaking, from my experience, humans don't post that many soldiers guarding the trebuchets. They post the rudimentary amount of guards. So if we manage to sneak some soldiers past, or I may go personally, I may be able to take out a couple and then just move from one trebuchet to another. That would cause a suitable amount of distraction when they actually need them, and we'd be able to flank, maybe send out some soldiers and flank them. But again, the Convocation of the wild cards here, they would see this and they would find some way to counter it.
Rowan would look at you and say, "The Convocation may be harrying our ranks, but they are old and an aged group. They're weak. Their time has passed. They are penchant for justice, yes, but their beliefs are folly, as are their actions. They will do nothing more than harry and try and broker a peace between our nations. This I'm sure of."
"Commander, with all due respect, do not mistake age and oldness with weakness. They're not something that we can overlook."
I agree. We need to be prepared. They will, at the very least, strike at us. Yet I say, if we do send down a team to deal with trebuchets, we need to have some sort of ranged attack, spells or archers. Something to distract the Convocation. Keep their eyes away. Just long enough.
I can send, if this is what we choose to do, a few members who practice the way with you. Perhaps their magic can help us to deal with the trebuchets, but the real problem is, how do we get down? They've blocked the Shattered Pass. They have a shielded legion moving their way up along there with a star steel plate in the front. We can't pierce it. They move slowly to avoid our
I'm
falling
hoping for.
rocks and our arrows, but nonetheless, they are strong.
If I could fly or do anything of the sort, I would probably tell you already. I have no solution to this.
Rowan kind of leans over the table, looking down at the map and the different pieces that are laid out. I do believe we are on to something, though. We must deal with the problems one at a time. It only matters now which is of the most import. Where do we start?
I say we begin with those birds in the air. We can't get to the trebuchets with the shields, and we can't deal with the shields without them over our heads. I'm scared enough as it is to walk outside in the courtyard.
Then
Dude,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Datus is the point there. As long as they have the flight advantage, we're kind of stuck.
Well, Lady Grey, you said that a storm is coming. I agree that if we're going to fight this, it's best off that we not weather it. We embrace the storm. Let's deal with these Convokers. Convocation. We'll take them out from the sky. I have ways of harnessing these storms, he'll kind of say. I know that it might be metaphorical, but sometimes it's better to take those metaphors and make them a reality.
Rowan would nod. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Let's bring the storm, I say, instead of weathering it.
Rowan would nod. Good. We have several options then. If you can truly call this storm, as you say, we do have several carrier owls down below in the aviary. The large kind, obviously, the ones that carry the messenger. They are not warbirds or griffins, but they could carry soldiers into the air. Additionally, we do know where they are camping and roosting their griffins. It is 2 peaks to our right. It would be a short journey, but a small group might be able to cause a havoc in their camp, maybe scare some of the griffins off. How do you propose we begin?
I say we take on the camp. Even if we don't scare any away, we might be able to disrupt their forces enough for us to regroup and deal with the next problem.
I agree.
We don't have to remove them completely, just enough to be out of our hands for a time.
We fight them.
Go
ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I agree with Darius. When we attack their camp, they will think that flight, the sky, is their advantage. Let's take that advantage and flip it on their head. When we get there, they'll surely take to the skies and try to leverage that over us. I'll look to take that leverage away while you guys wreak havoc.
Rowan would nod. Very well. I will task you a small force to go and deal with this. Will the 3 of you be taking this one task then?
I think with them in the sky, getting to the trebuchet will not be very easy.
He would nod. Right. Good, understood. I will take a small garrison then up the path, above the pass, and see if we can't stop the forward advance of these shielded men. You kind of would look over to Celise. Would you know of any way that we can get these soldiers and their squad to the ground without being seen? And she would just kind of smile. And she said, a fort like this, built by the hands of Karn, Yes, I know of several passages. And Rowan would nod. Good. Then we have a course of action. Once you have finished with the camp and with the convocation, return here and we will confront the next obstacle.
How many men do you have to defend this place?
We have perhaps 300 garrisoned here. A sizable amount, but not enough for the host that approaches. I will send, I suppose the smaller the size you take with you, the better. I'll send 10 of my best with you. Would you prefer them to be better with the bow or with the sword?
I would say split it. Half and half.
The Convocation may have the skies, but they take their fighters from everywhere. They'll be ready. We need to be ready for no matter who they bring.
And how big are the Convocation's camps roughly? Like, what are we going up against with 10? I'm sure that we kind of know this.
You would, so based off what you've seen in the sky, you would say that there are probably about maybe 15 convokers, but not all of them are like full convokers. Maybe half of them are initiates and the other half are a mixture of chaplains, wardens, and envoys.
Yep. And these shield men and trebuchets, sorry, how are we looking in size of that? As I imagine there's this tactical map in front of us, and they have like tokens that represent the armies. If I were to survey this battlefield, what exactly are we facing? 300 versus what?
It looks like you're looking at about moving up with the trebuchets, about 4 battalions of 250 Iridos elves.
Okay.
Maybe a quarter of that is mounted. And then additionally, coming up the pass, there's probably another small battalion of about 200.
Yeah. So we heavily outnumbered.
Yes, but you guys have the fort, though, which makes a big difference.
All right. I would definitely say keep most of the men here and ready to fight.
He would nod.
5 swords, 5 bow. Should be more than enough for us.
I will call for them at once. And he would kind of call a messenger out of the back of the room and whisper in his ear, like, who to go and get. And the messenger would run out. So shortly later, upon waiting for a little while, the messenger would return with 10 soldiers, 5 of which the archers are Elven. Alfheim is known for their archers, for their skill with the bow and their expertise at stealth. And then the 5 soldiers are from Karn, wearing their like heavy armor, but it's toned in kind of a blackish color, so that it doesn't reflect the light. So these 10 people walk into the room, and they kind of snap to attention.
Leon would he would specifically look over the archers, and he wouldn't really pay attention to them standing at attention. He would sort of most people would comment he's very off protocol. He's sort of just gets in close and sort of examines every how they've been taking care of their bows, their sort of setup of their armor, and maybe how well it's tanned or polished or something. He's just being very unprofessional about this.
Yeah, and while he's, unprofessionally looking them over, Darius would be standing, in attention like to, an officer, real soldier for them, at ease. Imagine these soldiers might even be looking at this other guy, just, what's he doing?
Yeah, so the 5 human soldiers they let their arms come back to their sides, and the elves kind of loosen up a bit as well. You see that the group is comprised of a mixture of old men, young boys. Even there's a very young elf among the elves chosen, and even a few not among the human side, because Well, I mean, but like a few shield maidens and women as well. So I mean, it's a large mixture of different people, but these are supposedly his best. And the young boy would actually step forward. He can't be anywhere older than maybe 150, 160. But he kind of puts his bow like across his body, and he says, "Captain Sylvalis reporting for duty." And the other elves kind of slap their bows across their body as well.
We leave for nightfall.
And Rowan would nod. Yes, at night when they can't see you.
I wouldn't be paying much attention to the soldiers, actually. I would look for like a window in this encampment or this fortress and look out into the horizon, probably at the marching troops in the distance. And I imagine that I actually see a storm cloud in the distance, which crackles with lightning.
Yeah, far over on the Erdos Plains, there is definitely some sort of a storm brewing out there. And as the host moves across the field, like a large wave of ants almost from your vantage point, the sun is going down. Maybe in another hour or so, it'll be dark.
Darius looks at the young captain, kind of with a smile on his face to see that such a young person had risen to such a rank. Have you and your men been briefed on the mission?
And he would just nod, kind of his eyes locked forward, like just giving you a brief nod.
Good. Good. Then you know what we're up against, the importance of this.
And he would nod to you and say, "I trust every single one of these people with my life, sir. None of them will let you down."
As you should. A soldier is only as good as the one next to him. I'll spare you.
So, again, sort of smoking his pipe and sort of offhandedly leaning against the wall, Leyen just mutters, which probably only someone who's intently listening would probably hear. He would just go, "It's defined by the person next to us, and we're kind of screwed, aren't we?" He says he kind of looks over. I forget your names. Looks over Lafarin and Darius. It's an offhanded jab, but you can tell that either he's being very casual about it or it's just either joking or he's super casual about insulting you.
Yeah, Lafarin wouldn't really pay much attention to that. He would actually just like barely even give you a glance.
Yeah, would this be kind of a regular thing to hear come from him, or?
Yeah, probably. He's
Alright, yeah.
most of the time he's either out in the wild, spends most of his time with animals, so this is not unusual for him.
Okay, then I probably wouldn't think anything of it either. Just you being you, to acknowledge it would be greater harm than otherwise.
Okay. And if nobody has any preparations that they want to make or anything, then we'll fast forward to nightfall.
Just making sure I don't need to make any preparations, but I'm pretty sure I'm good. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Darius would probably bring much fewer weapons than you'd be used to him seeing. You know he's got, 4 weapons. He keeps each of them, ready at any moment and, prepared, sharpened, practicing with them even every day. But as we prepare to go out, you see he's decided to leave behind his 2 hand axes. This might even strike you a little odd. to have such care and concern for each weapon, but leave some behind.
And you just see Leyen, as he usually is, just bow on his back, and basically right next to it is a long ornate spear. And otherwise, he seems pretty lightly packed, except for his pack, which is rather compact. I'm saying packed a lot. Rather small compared to what would be standard issue.
So, as night falls, I'm going to have everybody make a stealth check, and I made one for the group already. So only 2 of you need to succeed to be able to make it there unnoticed.
Can I do one thing?
Sure.
What Lane would do before everybody departs, more or less, is he would sort of empty out his pipe again and reach into one of his pouches and maybe pull out some wood shavings and sort of drop them and light them. And when he begins to smoke it, the smoke sort of spreads out. Like it doesn't go up like usually. It actually goes down and sort of covers everybody like a fog. And when it dissipates, it's like everybody's this sort of darkish gray as I cast Pass Without Trace for the group.
Oh, dang. That's like +10.
Plus 10 on all stealth checks.
Yeah.
So
what everybody roll? I know you got an nat 20. You don't need to rub it in anymore, Chris. I get it.
34? Not to brag.
That's 33.
Okay, yeah, you guys
with the +10.
Woo! Okay, well, everybody succeeds then. Even the soldiers did not better than you. But everybody succeeds. And basically, explain to me how you narrowly avoid an Iridos elf encounter as a patrol rides past you on their they're like these large, almost they're like long-legged birds. Think like kind of like a chocobo from like Final Fantasy, but like not like yellow. Like they're kind of like a black and like dappled gray looking bird. Like a patrol goes past you. How do you manage to avoid them? Like masterfully, actually. Someone feel free to explain.
I imagine it would be less a matter of being seen by them, as that's sort of been taken care of at that point. I think it's a matter of maybe either one of the more inexperienced soldiers or Darius would almost be heard by them. And Leon is sort of senses, okay, if I don't do something, we're gonna have an encounter here. So he kind of scrambles over and just does his best to sort of make it so that they stop, putting his hand over their mouth and just keeping them still for a sec as they pass.
Yeah, it's very much so. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's very much so in like Lord of the Rings, like the second one when Sam falls down the hill. Like you very much like run over to this dude as one of the patrols is like walking up to you, and like this gray smoke that you've put over everybody makes you look like a patch of rocks on the ground. So when he walks over with his torchlight, almost standing directly over you, he doesn't see you. He kind of just shrugs and walks back over, saying something in Elvish and climbing back on his bird as they leave. So you narrowly avoid the Iridos patrol. So now as you reach the base of the peak, where you can see like a campfire up towards the top, where the what's it called? The Convokers must be camping. I want everybody to roll me athletics or acrobatics checks to scale this wall.
Will do.
Oh, and you each got climbing gear before they sent you off, so you all have +2 to this roll as well.
Okay, cool. That would be...
How am I rolling so horribly? That's actually worse than the last one.
Not
one.
Your dice are sensing foreboding.
Yeah, you actually start to scale pretty well. And as you're just making your way up the edge of this cliff, Darius, your foot comes in contact with what you thought was solid, but it falls away beneath you, and you lose your footing, tumbling backwards over the edge. I'll let both of you try and make a check to save him. Again, either acrobatics or athletics, to try and grab him before he can fall like the 40 or 50 feet that he's already climbed.
So wait, are we attempting to save him here?
Yeah, if you decide to try and save him.
Okay. Okay.
And to think I was tempted to take Featherfall.
Sounding useful now, doesn't it? So, okay, Lane would maybe for a split second look to see if anybody else is moving to catch him before he kind of reaches the side of his pack and just sort of unhooks the hemp rope and just tosses it down. Maybe sort of sliding himself down the rock wall a bit just to make sure the rope can reach within arm's length of him.
Okay, so you got high enough, Chris, to catch his hand, but now I'm going to need a dex save then out of you, Michael, to try and grab this rope that just it just spools past you towards the ground.
Different dice.
Two. Okay. So, Lufarin, you managed to grab his hand as he's falling past you, slowing his descent maybe at about the 30 feet mark. But his hand, like, it lashes for a second and slips free, and as he reaches to grab the rope, he misses. So you're going to fall the rest of the way down, taking 3d6 falling damage. And that is going to be 12 points. Yeah, you hear, I'm going to roll something else, actually. Okay. You hear like a crack as he lands on the ground. Luckily, I rolled a luck die for you. You don't sprain or break your leg or anything. So you are able to, now this rope is out for you. You can climb the rope now, and it'll be easier.
And maybe try and craft a new D20 out of some paper while I'm at it.
Yeah.
Because that's
or
a better result. I got a couple decks of cards here. Would that work?
So as you climb back up after them, you do manage to make it to the top. Your legs are sore, though. Your arm, you slammed your elbow into the ground when you landed, so it's stinging, and it feels like there's like vibrations moving up your arm as it hurts. But otherwise, you're okay, besides the damage you took falling. So once you reach the top of this cliff, you can see like a small hill just before you. And from the top of it, you can see the light of whatever campfire they're currently at.
Darius, as he kind of meets back up with us and just be like, what the hell is wrong with you?
I'd probably try and play it off as if absolutely nothing happened.
If you can't climb a mountain, how are you supposed to fight a war? Get your head on.
So, but yeah, he just kind of shake it off, just look, almost pretending that didn't happen, and pull his sword out, ready.
Just shake my head and then look up to the camp. What do we see for this Convocation camp?
You would have to scale the hill. You can't see over the top of it.
Sorry, yeah. Then I would definitely do so. Is it another climb? Or I would definitely recommend that only a couple of us scale this last bit to lessen certain mountain climbing rookies from endangering themselves any more than they need to.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a climb. It's more just like a little incline, like not like straight up and down. Like you could walk up this. But whoever approaches to check out the camp, stealth.
Is Password or Trace still in?
No, it wore off. It's been
Nope.
about 2.5 hours since you left the mountain.
All right, I imagine Lan's
You're
pretty
going.
stealthy, so you can go unless you think you're less stealthy than me.
I'm fairly decent stealth. fairly
I'm
decent.
super stealth. I'm like, from a skill of 1 to 20, I'm probably like about a 7.
You're so
I'm-
stealth, you're so stealth, it circles around to being unstealthy again.
Almost like Gandhi.
Almost like Gandhi.
Yeah.
So that would be a 19 stealth.
Okay. As you crawl towards the top of the hill, you peek over the top, and you can see down in kind of like a little ravine right before a large cave, like a circle, like a campfire with like a circle of tents around it and bedrolls. You see people moving about. It looks like currently all 15 of the people are here, all 15 of the Convokers. The cave, you can hear screeching coming from the cave. You assume that the griffins are in there.
All right. Is there some kind of I can only hear the griffins, correct?
Yeah, you can hear them screeching inside the cave. Basically, you can't see them. Like you see an occasional shadow from some sort of like a firelight in there, but you don't see the griffins.
Okay. I try to sort of circle around the camp, keeping sort of out of distance of the firelight, and maybe try to find some kind of advantageous position or find some place of the most obvious spot where a sabotage would occur. Something I don't know, maybe combustible or something that would draw a lot of attention.
Yeah, so you see a couple of crates kind of sitting off by themselves, probably where they keep all their food, maybe some arrows and munitions. Other than that, the most burnable things look like the tents, and I mean, the tents are fairly stationed close together. I mean, like they're like one right after the other around the fire. So hopefully, lighting one would light the other ones, but you don't see anything super like obviously like burnable, like oh yeah, if I light that, everyone's gonna explode or something.
Okay. So.
And how far away are we again? Sorry, I missed like how far away we actually are.
Yeah, so he left you and kind of went over the top of the hill and kind of snuck around.
Oh, okay.
So you guys from the camp at the bottom of this hill are maybe like 40, 50 feet away. But Lane's probably about like 60 or 70 feet or 80 feet away from you guys.
Like
Alright.
walkie-talkie rings or anything?
No. The walkie-talkie has not been invented yet.
Come on,
It's
everybody
shouting.
knows the Come on,
Really
everybody
come
knows
on.
the message spell.
So so as he's kind of getting his look around, are you staying up there? Like, would minutes kind of pass, or would you come back down and tell us?
Yeah, how much scouting are you doing? Like, are you gonna move close to the camp? Are you gonna move up around it? Are you gonna go in the cave? What are you doing?
Basically, how I imagine it is, I'm sort of testing the range. I would try to approach sort of closer until I sort of get the instinct or the feeling that if I move any further from here, then I'm going to be putting myself at risk. So I'll just go as far as I can manage in relative stealth.
Okay. So like moving around the edge of this camp, kind of getting. I mean, you're able to move like behind large boulders and kind of slip beneath rocks, and the light doesn't quite reach you. But you reach a point where like if you move forward any closer, it'd be a lot harder to move anywhere. But yeah, as you're watching, you see several of the people go back inside the cave, probably to check on the griffins, and also you see one person split off, probably going on guard duty, and he's walking actually towards the hill.
Okay. Are the people that are approaching? Are the people in the camp? Are they looking away from this person, or is the person sort of out of sight as he comes up the hill?
One person is kind of like watching him, and he makes like a joke to somebody, and they kind of slap each other on the shoulder. And then he looks away for a second to talk to somebody else. So, like, nobody's looking at him exactly in this moment as you notice this.
Okay. And what I try to do is I'd sort of come up behind and sort of that a chokehold that everybody knows in every show ever. I just sort of come up and sort of put pressure right under the cart, right over the Adam's apple, and just sort of try to choke him out as I sort of back near towards where I know the other soldiers are.
You're gonna solid snake this guy? Okay.
I'm
Go
gonna
ahead.
solid snake this guy.
Give me a stealth check against his perception. He's gonna try and like hear you approaching.
Okay. Nat 20!
Okay, yeah, you're silent, absolutely silent. He does not notice you. So as your arm closes around his neck, the first round he's not gonna be able to try and struggle against you. And he's not gonna be able to make cry out or anything. You get him completely off guard. So now what I'm gonna need from you is 2 rounds of contested strength checks to choke him out.
Okay.
So go ahead and roll one against me now.
Is this something I would apply favorite enemy to?
So this guy, he's a human man. So did you choose human as a favorite enemy?
I
And
chose
I believe human favorite enemy applies to knowledge checks and tracking though. Like specifically those things.
I can pull up the ruling on that if you want.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead and pull it up. But for this round, we won't count it.
All right. So contested strength. Okay, I'm sort of suspicious of my luck right now. I'm hoping I don't screw up the next one. That would be 16.
Okay, so yeah, he failed against you this one. He's weakly like, okay, kind of like pulling at your arm, trying to get you to release him. You see that this person is a very young man. He doesn't have his full Convoker regalia yet. He's definitely just an initiate who had the misfortune of probably drawing guard duty. So he's like, and he's kind of like pulling at your arm, trying to get it to come down. So now one more.
Okay. I'm not shitting you.
Did you nat 20?
Oh. Yes, I nat 20'd.
I can't see that, but I see it. I believe you. Okay, cool. Yeah, he stops struggling slowly, one at a time. His 1 second at a time. And then he passes out.
All right. And as he does so, I'd sort of release the tension on his neck, and I'd sort of just lock my arms sort of under his and around the shoulder, and sort of just start to drag him over to the other guys. And as I come close, I just sort of mutter to them, well, he was coming in our direction. Decided to deal with him.
Thanks for that. How's it look up there?
All the Convokers are there. They're, well, 14 now, but they were all stationed there before. Their griffins are in a cave, so I couldn't easily have sabotaged them. And I was just sort of explain the points of interest I saw, like the crates and how bunched together the tents were.
How big is this cave?
Am I safe to say the entrance was big enough for a griffin?
Yeah, the entrance is about a 30-foot radius, so like 60 feet wide. Like it's a pretty decently large cave.
Mm-hmm. And I would sort of relay that. Prattle off this information that I try to be slow, but I sort of momentarily go into talking really fast, but then slow down again. And finally, when that's all done, I go, "You got a plan, old man?"
Well, we're best off to not let them get on the griffins. Depending on how big the cave is, I might have something to stop them. At which point, these 10 men and women, and you two, should have no trouble dealing with the rest when they're away from their beast.
Then we set up around the camp. Wait for the right moment then.
And Lane would sort of nod and go, "Shall I put up my cloak again?" And I look over to the group. So it's a question addressed to them, basically. Should I use my last second level spell slot?
If we want to not risk getting caught sneaking up to this, then probably. But you.
How hard or easy would it appear to be for us to kind of go around the camp like that? It's kind of come up from the sides.
Yeah, if you guys split into two groups, went around on either side of the camp, I mean, there's enough darkness and like rocks and heal that if you were to do so, it wouldn't be too hard to get into position. It's just like once you enter the camp light. I mean, like the area has been cleared, so you'd have to go through about 10 feet or 15 feet of camp light, firelight, before even approaching or reaching the camp's edge.
Well, I think we might be able to make it. Besides, we'll be slipping up around the camp that I don't know how well exactly your spells are, but might not work in this situation like we need.
Indeed.
And I sort of nod at that and go, "All right, so sneak around, corner them, deal with them, and make sure they can't mount their beasts." Got it.
Layan, could you take me in close to the cave? That is where I'm interested in being. Darius, you take the other group and flank.
I'll get them on the other side. How do we exactly want to initiate this ambush?
I
strike first with them, or you take them out, or you stop the griffins first?
I have a sneaky suspicion our friend over here, and I'd look to Layan, is no stranger to starting these kind of ordeals off. At which point, you swipe in when we catch them off grounds or off guard. I have a feeling that their instinct will be to go to their griffins. I could be dead wrong and look quite stupid, but we'll block that off, in which point you'll know, and that's when the attack starts.
He nodded in and looked to the soldiers. It's kind of whichever ones will be coming with him. I imagine more a group of the humans with their swords than elves, and nod to follow him as he wraps around.
Okay, so I'm going to need stealth checks from the two respective groups. So go ahead and roll stealth, Michael, for you and your band. And then Chris and Chris, both of you roll stealth for you and your band.
All right.
Yeah, okay. And then what'd you get, Michael?
1 second. I'm looking at my stealth modifier. I got a 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, as you're making your way along the left side of the camp, and the other group is making their way around the right side, you kind of are on the top of this little hill that's kind of like seems to be encircling this valley. And as you're making your way along the top of this hill, your foot, you step on a rock that wasn't very anchored, and it breaks off beneath you. You lose your footing, and it starts to slide down the hill. Sylvanus captures you by the grabs you by the arm, and hoists you before you can tumble down the hill after the rock. And then he quickly pulls you back over the edge of the hill as people start to turn and look.
How close to the cave entrance would Lufarin and I be to the cave entrance?
When this happens, you guys would be about 25, 30 feet away. And then several of them actually stand up from the campfire and draw their swords and start making their way over towards your group. Michael, or Darius, I guess.
Well, just this is happening, I say as I draw my bow and knock a couple of arrows and sort of bump into Lufarin's shoulder. Get to the cave entrance, I'll provide some rear fire. I say as I draw and aim for 2 Convokers or Initiates or whatever that are the furthest right and left, and start to fire as they sort of near and attack Michael's group, or Darius rather.
Okay, so let's let Chris do what he wants to do real quickly. As you approach, okay, yeah, nobody notices you. Everyone's looking over at the hill.
If they're not going towards the griffins, or there's any sign that there's griffins that are alerted to this, I'm not gonna do anything just yet. So I'll just because it seems like they're going his way, right? So which I'm pitching is the opposite direction.
Yeah. So there's about 4 that stood up and made their way towards Michael and his group, and a couple of them stood up and actually started moving towards the cave, and the other ones are just kind of standing at alert.
So I'm just basically gonna ready my action for once the first person gets within, I'll say, the mouth of the cave. That's when I'll have my ready action for.
Okay, so go ahead and make your attack then, Chris. This is your surprise round.
All right. And because I get advantage on things that haven't attacked yet, thank you, Revised Ranger. So first attack. Okay, good thing I have advantage. That's a 5. So that would be 18 in the first hit.
That would hit. Yep.
And 23 on the second one.
Okay, both hit.
All right. And my initiative is written down in the chat.
So you're attacking the 2 separate people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Out of the 4 that stood up and started moving in Darius's direction, I shoot the ones that are furthest right and to the left. So that would be in terms of damage. First one. Oh, nice. Max damage. And because they're humans, correct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't see their backs.
Just saying, so, if they are, I get 2 extra damage.
One of them. I'll say one of them is, sure.
Okay. So with or without the 2 extra damage, that would be a plus. No, that wouldn't be a plus. That would be 12 damage. And the second one, 8 again. That would also be 12 damage. So one of them takes 14, the other is 12.
Okay, cool. So initiative order. And very end is Lynn. Then the Karn soldiers. Okay, Darius, your turn.
Alright, so I see these guys heading our way, and I've already got my sword in hand, but then I as I fall almost, I know I'm breaking stealth here. This is not my time. So I reach back behind me and pull out a staff that almost would be as much a part of me, more so than my armor, my uniform. I mean, this is something I take with me when I get up to go to the bathroom. So it's something that you almost would forget I have on me. And hold it at the ready and point it right at them as I cast Magic Missile at these guys. Just catch them. They're going to see me. They just got shot at. It's time to go. So now I just need to pull up my spell.
The struggle of any spellcaster.
Yep, because I am the most prepared and the best at rolling dice.
Totally.
So, how many of them are there?
There are 4 moving towards you.
Okay. Then I'm going to go for just one of them. Whichever one seems to be taking charge. So, and I'm going to pull something up so I can ease down. So that's... And final one... That's going to be 11 points of damage.
Okay, yeah, he, so you're shooting at one of the 4 walking towards you?
Yep. One that might seem to be taking charge of them. If there is.
Yeah, okay, so you see very obviously standing towards the front of the group is a warden. And he takes these magic missiles as you fire them. And he grunts and falls backwards and shouts, "Enemies!" And everyone kind of stands to their feet and they start drawing their weapons. And the 3 moving towards the cave start sprinting. And now we'll go to the Convoker's turn. So the 3 moving towards the cave, go ahead and use a reaction then, Chris.
So at that point, Lefarin would kind of like reach into his cloth that he wears around his waist, and he would pull out a feather that looks quite exotic, something that would definitely not be from the land that they're from, and he would whisper these kind of arcanic chants, and sprouting from basically inside the cave, this strong wind would rise up from the ground, and it would start to span out and form this wall as I cast Wind Wall, and I'm pretty sure it's pretty massive. And I want to do it so that basically the very first one is at the mouth, so that he will have to make a strength save to not get hit by this thing.
Nice.
Okay, what's the save he has to make?
I guess I should know that, eh? Give me a second here. Sorry. I don't know why I don't have that in front of me. 8 plus 13 plus where's my proficiency? 16, I think.
I believe it's +3 art level.
Yep. 13, 14, 15. Yeah, 16 is my DC.
16? Okay. One of them succeeds, the other 2 are thrown backwards off their feet. But one of them like plants his feet and forces his way through.
You can actually force your way through this thing. It's just the damage that they save on. It says, I can read it if you want, but basically it forms this foot-thick wall of wind that objects, let me make sure that small or smaller creatures or objects. Oh yeah, so I guess a medium size could pass through it. You're right. So yeah, the other ones would take 3d8 damage, half on a save. So I'll roll that. 12 is max damage.
Okay, 12?
Yep.
All right, so the 2 that fail, I guess they take max, and then the other one takes half.
Yep.
But 2, one of them nat 1, so he was thrown backwards. So does it knock them backwards if they fail the save? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm trying to read through it right now. It's a big wall of text. I think it just takes the damage, and arrows, bolts, and projectiles can't go beyond it. Small.
It looks like Michael dropped.
Yep. Can't pass through. Yeah, so for the most part, it doesn't actually say that they get blown back. It's not what I thought it was. I guess they just take damage.
Oh.
Weird.
Okay. Yeah, so one of them is blown back, though. The other two force their way through the wind wall into the cave.
Yep.
Okay, so the Convokers. Goodness, I'm trying to pull the stat block up, but freaking the PDF is being stupid.
Everyone has plus 11 to hit.
Yeah, they almost destroy you guys. Okay, oh, here we go. Okay, initiates. Okay. So as they rush up the hill to meet with your group, two of the initiates are going to attack you, Michael. And one of them
Michael
is
dropped.
going to hit. Oh, is he not here still? Oh, he dropped like completely. No. Okay, well, I suppose this is as good a time as any then to take a quick break. So go ahead and go to the bathroom. And when we get back to Convoker, we'll mess y'all up.
Yep.
He said he's setting his thing in the Facebook group.
Okay, so be back in 5 minutes then. We'll just go to the bathroom and do whatever you need to.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Will do.
Awkward moment when you don't read your spell. I just seen Windwall, and I automatically assumed this thing's like Yasuo's Windwall in League, so it's going to block everything. And then I actually read it, and it's not nearly as good as I thought it was.
It's a freaking wind wall. How is it not awesome?
Exactly. The strong wind keeps fog, smoke, or other gases at bay. Small or smaller flying creatures or objects can't pass through. Yeah, that's pretty crappy, actually. Oh, well. I'll be right back in the drink.
The wayward son returns.
Yeah, no kidding. I had some problems with the internet earlier today, but I figured it's solved. We haven't had any problems for a couple hours. I don't need to tell the group.
Well, we took a small break. It was as good a time as any. Mid-combat.
Guess so. I'll refill my water then. Oh.
You just got hit too. We ended with Tyler saying, "Oh hey, you get hit too, Michael," and then I dreadfully inform him that you dropped.
It is not your day today, man.
You know what? At least it isn't yesterday. Yesterday was hell at work. So, I'm gonna refill my water since we're missing someone. I think I'll make him wait.
Okay. Waiting for the other guys to finish their things.
Yeah, I'm the one who disconnected, and yeah, I'm waiting on everyone.
Oh, the irony.
Yep.
Tyler, where are you?
Come on out wherever you are. So yeah, does the opening sequence
It's a
to
good
that
opportunity to fix them.
does the opening to that friggin' session remind you of any movie or something? Because I feel like that stealth sequence was reminiscent of something.
A little bit, but I can't place it.
Or it's just general stealthy badassery. I don't know.
Stealth.
Plus
stealth.
me.
Except for you.
But you know,
Any attempt to stealth
when I
is
create my
destined to
character-
fail.
but I got a nat 20 on my initiative.
So you acted first?
But, you know,
Your
I
dice
didn't picture my
sense
character. I
your-
created him. My dice are probably upset that I forgot to grab them the instant I sat down. Just that first time before we started rolling, my camera turned off. That was me running to
Yeah.
grab them.
But yeah, you designed your character after.
No, I designed him to be like this. I envisioned being this complete badass, who's like swinging weapons around, throwing, like casting a spell, throwing a hand axe and calling it back to his hand and slicing somebody, and then next weapon, next spell, just like going through shit. Just like this guy's a badass, but nope.
And then he met the mountain.
Yeah.
And then trips on a rock.
Wait, for who? Oh, Darius? Yeah, he got wrecked. I thought you were talking about Game of Thrones for a second, like, and then he met the mountain. I was like, you know, that's pretty suiting. Come back to. All right, boys.
Yeah, he did meet the mountain.
And now I'm gonna lay the beat down on you fools. Here we go. You guys ready?
Ready.
Lego.
Hope
Okay.
so.
The initiates charge at you. Michael, 2 of them attack you. And wow, they suck. They miss completely, both of them, on all their attacks. The other ones, so let me see, 3, 4 of them have run into the cave now. That means there were already 3 in there. 4 of them made their way up the hill. So that means there are 3 other ones. And those 3 turn to confront your group. Goodness. Lufarin and Leon. So they're going to charge at you guys. One of them goes on you, Leon, and hits 1 attack.
Okay.
One of them goes on you, Lufarin, and nat 20 is one of his attacks. And the other 2 go on your group behind you guys and miss all their attacks. Man, these guys suck. Convokers are poopy. Okay. So, oh my gosh, come on, PDF. Okay, Darius, you take 10 points of damage slashing from a reverie longsword.
10 points of
Chris.
Got it.
Chris, on your nat 20, when they hit you, you take 14 points of damage. And then one of your homies also takes a hit. Okay. And that is it for the Convokers.
I did no
next-
damage.
Huh?
You
Did one
went
of
over. One hit me, but you said no damage.
Oh, did I say the one? Okay, here. I've lost track of the one that hit you then. Okay, the one that hit you did 10.
Ah.
Where's my
Okay.
damage? He says.
Yeah, come on. It's the Carney Masochism. Hurt me. Okay. That's it for them. The next up is
Alright.
like Lafurin.
All right, so as one of these initiates come charging forward and slash across my chest with his sword, we'll see it cuts me open, and I kind of spin back, looking like this really old, elderly elf. But as I spin, I have this leaf in my hand that I crush up, and then from it you start to see these embers start to form as I do another one of my magical chants. And bursting from my hand is this fiery blade. As I cast Flame Blade, I will then, with this fire blazing scimitar, try to strike this initiate down. As I roll a, let's see, 9 plus. I roll a, 17 to hit. You're muted. I'm going to assume that hits, though.
Yes, that does hit, sorry.
Slash him across the face with a sizzling 8 damage.
Ouch. Ouch, so painful. Okay, 8 damage. And then you guys have one of them.
Much hurt, very wow.
Yeah, much hurt, much wow, much pain. Okay. Next up is Lan.
Okay, laying as this. I presume Convoker sort of closes in on me and slashes me. I imagine I was sort of midden drawing another arrow as he nears in, and I sort of toss the bow aside and I sort of narrow my eyes, and they sort of, the irises glow bright green for a second as I mutter some sort of tribalistic chants. And he would see these sort of tattoos start springing up all over my body, sort of turning the primary color into sort of a muddled gray as I cast Hunter's Mark on him. And I just, using the arrow that I drew, I just close in, grab onto him, just start stabbing him. And it's the equivalent of a dagger in damage, I believe.
So what are you using?
Basically, I'm just using an arrow that I drew sort of mid-attack from him, and I just starting to stab him with it as a sort of near and close.
Okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead and make me an attack then. Or I guess you get 2 attacks.
I have 2 attacks.
And then it'll just be 1d4 plus 1d6 because of your Hunter's Mark damage.
Yeah. And I have Colossus Slayer, meaning anything that's I attack that's below max HP. I also deal an extra d8 damage.
Which everything is below max HP now. You guys kind of spread out your attacks.
So yeah, this will be fun. 18 natural in the first roll.
Hits.
And 14 on the second one. So that would be 21 if it's any question.
Yeah, both of those hit. Oh.
So, so many dice. Okay, 1d4 plus 1d6 plus 1d8.
Yeah, and then the second one should be 1d4 plus 1d6.
So that is, and he is human, correct?
This one, no. This one is.
Okay.
Sorry, what? Somebody say something?
Oh, and I looked, but that doesn't have anything to do with damage. It is just tracking and intelligence checks. So.
All right.
Okay.
So first one is 14 damage.
Okay.
The second one is, holy shit, 10 damage. Actually, no, not 10. Wait. Oh, right, I forgot the stat modifier. So that would be 18 in the first one and 13 in the second one.
Ow. Yeah, it's like straight out of like freaking Psycho. Like it's like the knife in the black and white movie, just like. Yeah. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah, he just like stumbles backwards against his onslaught, bleeding profusely. You manage to find a cheek right next to his neck, and this arrow is now protruding out of his like the chink between his collar and his shoulder.
And as he does so, I just end my turn just giving him just this wild grin.
Yeah, he's terrified of you now. Okay, your soldiers. They rush up to join the fray. Okay. Arrows are being loosed. Swords are drawn, and 3 arrows hit and 2 slashes hit. Okay. Go.
Yes, sir. The best of the best.
Okay. So yeah, like fighting breaks out everywhere around you, and the warden who was originally strolling up the hill towards you, Michael, now breaks into a run as he rushes you and is going to attack you twice. I forgot to make him go on his turn. So.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I forgot to have him go with all the other guys. So he's going to do 9 points of damage to you as his heavy greatsword cuts through your shoulder and down along your chest. And okay, so that's it for them now. The soldiers have gone. Darius, back to the top.
Alright, so this guy is just, sliced at me. I've taken some damage, and, I'm staring at this guy dead on. I've hit him, he's hit me. I scroll down to see if it's a bonus action for second wind. Just all sorts of crazy stuff. Yep, bonus action. Okay. Ooh. So that is... I'm just going to use my phone for a calculator now, because my computer takes too long. Nope, wrong button. Okay. Got what I needed to know. Alright, so yeah, and then I'm going to... And so he's, coming at me. I'm locking this guy dead on, and I'm going to try and slash at him with my long sword, keeping my staff kind of at the side ready so that at any moment I could cast something from there, almost holding it midway and tucking it under my arm. So that's... Dice don't hate me anymore. That's going to be 11 to hit.
Oh.
Yeah, that definitely does not hit. He just brings up a gauntleted arm and just catches your staff off the back of his arm. Anything else?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay. Convokers. Everybody again, you're going to each take 2 attacks. 1 hits on you, Chris Logie. 1 hits on you, Chris Villanueva. Both attacks miss you, Michael, from the warden. And then more attacks and swings go at your troops. You see a couple of people of your soldiers start going down. Okay, so for the one that hits Lafurin, take 5. For the one that hits Leon, take 6.
All right.
And then that's all the damage that was dished out to you guys. The one soldier who was locked, the other soldier, so there were 2 locked on you, Chris, Leon. The one that you just messed up is going to disengage and run.
Okay.
Yeah, so he takes the disengage action, and he's just like hobbling into the cave. And so he disappears around the bend as he forces his way through the wind wall, like bleeding profusely. Okay, and that's it for the Convokers. Back to Lafurin.
Before you take your turn, I imagine, just kind of visually, since this guy's bleeding so much and that wind wall's there, some of his blood gets caught up in the wind, tainting the color.
Yeah, I mean, you see like little flecks of like blood now inside of this thing, and, like turned and tossed around.
Absolutely. And as Lefarian is showing off with this initiate, he has centuries of experience. He knows that he is so much more trained than this initiative. Sorry, but his bones are old now, and his muscles are old, and he feels the searing pain of the scimitar that struck across him. And as he bleeds, he looks down. A strike that powerful would normally not even graze his skin, but now this blood profusely kind of pours out. He's frustrated because he knows that if this was even 100 years before, this initiate would be dead. But nonetheless, he whirls in and does a spinning attack with his flame blade, but I only rolled a 13, so I imagine that's pretty sketchy.
Oh, it's not just sketchy, it's terrible. And he raises his blade and catches it on it and deflects your flame to the side.
Absolutely. And more frustration, as almost like a primal kind of enraged grunt escapes me, as I'm just purely frustrated that my age is what is keeping this young kid alive. That's all I got.
Yeah, definitely. And this man, he's not a child, but he's a human.
Child,
you know, their lives are fleeting. He's a child to you. His man might be 50 years old for human standards, but for an elf, he's a child still. And as he looks up at you and he's like attacking you and trying to get the upper hand, you can see fear in his eyes. He's scared. He's probably never been on a ground battle before. All he's ever seen was fighting from the back of a griffin. So this is the kind of bloodshed he's not used to. And he's swinging his blade at you wildly, wantonly, throwing away his training, as if it's nothing, as if that doesn't mean anything to him in this moment. He's giving himself over to instinct rather than training. Okay, Leon.
Okay. As the guy hobbles away and sort of using the action to sort of push through the wind wall, and this new guy sort of appears before me. I actually imagine he sort of tries to spend his move action to try to move to the wind wall, but I imagine the new initiator sort of interposed himself in front of him, so he can't really move. So what he does, he backs off a bit, just out of swing distance from the sword, draws out his spear and just clutches it in both hands, and he spends his bonus action to mark him as well. And he would just see blood splattered all over my face, these tribal tattoos just writhing a bit under the skin, and he feels this sort of tension in his chest as I mark him, and just begin to stab at him. So, do we start with inspiration?
No, sir.
Is he human?
I would have used it if we did start with it.
The one that ran was not human. The one that's still standing is an elf.
Okay. Does a 14 hit?
No, it does not, sir.
Okay. Second attack is an 18, so that's better.
Yeah, 18 hits.
Okay. And has he been wounded? Just to know if I need to use a D8 or not.
Everybody has been wounded at this point.
Okay. So he would sort of, I imagine, just parry and bat aside the spear with his blade and sort of, you would imagine, because I put my weight into the attack, I would sort of stagger a bit, but I sort of use the momentum and sort of twist around and just take the spear in the back and I grip and stab into him. As I, D4, where are you? There you are. That would be a 15 damage.
Ow.
Revised Ranger's no joke.
Yeah,
well,
he stumbles against this spear as it slips underneath his breastplate and pierces up into his chest, and he kind of stumbles backwards, like gasping in pain.
And again,
All
this sort
right.
of just the same wildish grin, as if he doesn't even register the pain. He's just sort of ecstatic that he's he's relishing the hunt, pretty much.
Perfect. Okay. Next up then are your soldiers. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So one arrow nat 20s. And that is going to be a lot of damage to this guy. Another arrow finds its mark. 3 swords find their mark this time. Okay, yeah, it's chaos just everywhere. Just blood, blades, arrows. You see somebody has kicked the fire on accident, running past it. And one of the tents is actually gone up in flames. And that will be it for your soldiers. Next up then is Darius.
Yeah, I'm locking eyes with this guy. Just kind of almost, I imagine, circling each other, and similar to a duel, just trying to go back and forth between us. Him trying to strike at me, me at him, as I then lunge at him, missing my first attack as, he either blocks or dodges it. And then the second one, as I turn, he does something similar, and it's, a back and forth as I use my turn, not able to hit.
Yeah, he just parries one of your swings off the edge of his blade and then spins it over his head and slams into the ground and steps on your staff, so you can't attack him with it for your next one. Next up then are the Convokers. So he's going to raise a gauntleted fist and punch you in the face, Darius. And that is definitely going to hit. And he hits you for 4 points of damage as a fist slams into your face as he knocks you backwards, stepping off the staff. And then with a backhand swing, you narrowly are missed by the greatsword as it comes around, cleaving through the clothing on the front of your chest. The other ones, the one that you're fighting, Chris, he's pretty bloodied, but he's gonna grit his teeth and fight you some more. So first attack hits, second attack misses. He hits you for 3, and then the another one attacks Chris. Both miss, and then fighting amongst the soldiers.
Which Chris got hit, might I ask?
Chris Villanueva. Oh wait, with the you Chris Leon.
Yeah, because he called us both Chris. I was like, okay, so one of us doesn't get hit, the other does get hit.
Yeah, so let Leon take 3.
Okay.
You could split the damage.
Yeah, both of you take 1. Okay, and that's it for the Convokers. It seems like they are just from the chaos of this initial fight. They're kind of getting routed. They're looking pretty bloodied. Their ranks definitely very damaged. The warden is standing fine. He seems to be holding his own against you. But as you are fighting, you see out of the mouth of the cave a large Convoker steps. He's wearing his full regalia. It's an envoy, and he puts his ring to his lips, and he just shouts, "Stop!" He just yells, "There's no purpose in this." What do you guys do?
I imagine that Leon is too sort of drunk on the prospect of killing like this to actually listen to the initial shout. I think would need some kind of either some kind of reinforcement or something something else that isn't just verbal to actually sort of get across the idea that, wait, maybe I should, stop. So until such a thing happens, he's just going to keep going.
Darius, I imagine, is used to chaos of battle, people screaming loud and saying to stop. So he'd be drowning that out, but more using it as an opportunity to look for an opening in this warden. Would there be any such thing where the screaming might open his defenses for even a split moment?
Yeah, the warden would kind of he'd look back over his shoulder, so you'll have advantage on your first attack next turn if you make one against him. Lufarin, what are you doing? Lufarin.
So I imagine time basically slows for Lufarin. He sees this initiate in front of him, and he's just swinging wildly, like you said. The experience is not in his eyes. He's full of bloodlust. He sees this envoy step out and yell stop, and you just he's kind of panning the battlefield all in this moment. The flame from his sword is almost like slowly whipping, and he looks and he sees Lan, and he clearly knows that he has no intentions of stopping. He sees across the battlefield that Darius also has the look in his eyes of someone who's going to continue this. He looks at his people, the soldiers he's sent with. No one is stopping this fight, and he knows it. He knows it's too late. And he looks back to this man who he was regarding as a child, and it's kind of like time starts quickly snapping to the present as he realizes, he sees the age in this guy. He realizes that he's a full-fledged adult, and he's watching this poor initiate's life kind of flash before him. He knows that he never stood a chance against Lufarin. Lufarin's seen too many battles, and in that instant, I rolled a nat 20. And I'm going to finish him off with, I imagine, 23 damage as the envoy yells out, stop.
23 would finish him. How do you kill him?
Head cleanly chopped right off, at which point it burns and kind of seals it.
Yeah, his head actually, the gust of wind coming off the wind wall actually, as it flies off of his body, this head, it kind of gets caught and it lands at the feet of the envoy, who looks down at this head. And as do you turn and follow the trajectory of the head, Lufarin?
I imagine that I lock eyes with this envoy.
Yeah, you lock eyes with him. You stare back at his young face, and he looks at you, and you would see confusion and disbelief and sorrow.
And all he would see is this old, bald, scarred elf that has these tattoos that are completely faded, something that he once wore as pride. He's given up that pride long ago, and these tattoos are fading. He looks this young envoy in the eye, and he says, I'm sorry. There's no stopping this. And you'll start heading towards him. You muted yourself.
And as the man's staring at you, this young man, maybe no older than 20, perhaps, 25, 30, he looks down at his hands and then looks across the field at the warden who's fighting you, Darius. And he lifts the ring to his lips and he shouts, retreat. And he would look up, say, quick, Emery, come. There's no point in this fight. And the one who you're fighting, this Emery, turns and looks back at him and nods. All right, Arendelle. And he disengages from you and turns and sprints away. They all run towards the mouth of the cave where you see now emerging the griffins. The one boy who is bleeding profusely, hunched over on the back of his griffin, blood soaking into the pure white feathers. and they mount up, and they're going to take off unless you want to stop them.
I imagine I would chase after them, and then as they kind of fly over my head, like just barely catching, getting above me so I don't lose my head, I'm going to drop my sword and take the staff and holding it directly in front of me, cast Burning Hands. Which, because I did remember to actually pull something up beforehand this time, surprise, surprise, is going to be a 15-foot cone. They need to make a dex save.
Okay, so I'll roll dex saves for the griffins because they're taking off over the top of you. So you'd hit the griffins, not the riders. And I'll just roll 2 for 2 different griffins. And right. 2 of them, those 2 succeed, so they'll take half the damage.
Yep. All right. So now for that sweet, sweet dice via an website this time, because I no longer trust my actual dice. And that will be
the moment you stop trusting
damage.
How much damage?
7.
Okay, cool.
The moment you stop trusting your dice is the moment they screw you.
So the griffins take off over you, soaring away, and if you were to watch them, Lufarin, you would lock eyes one more time with this Convoker named Arendelle, and he'd be shaking his head as the camp is alight and burning, and the one dead initiate lies there, his head still soaking in the ground. So you guys have won. They've left. They've abandoned their camp. At the very least, they will not be active for the next few days.
And at this, I imagine Lane just sort of has this maybe triumphant look on his face for a bit before he actually sort of calms down, sort of breathing heavily, leaning on his spear, and he sees the empty camp, the burning tents, and just sort of grows silent, and just picks out his pipe again, and just starts smoking.
Darius, seeing them fly away, knowing that they're victorious, but he wasn't able to be as effective as he wanted. For the first time that you've seen him, because he typically tries to remain calm, calculating, remembering his intense training. Like he has spent many, many years. Entire humans have been born, lived, and died during his training to become the most effective and efficient soldier he can. But this time, he just throws his staff on the ground furiously and screams at them. And then calming himself, taking deep breaths, he leans down, grabbing his sword, sheathing it, and leaning on his staff, and looking at the others. Success. Let's go report in.
Lufarin doesn't see a victory when he looks at this encampment. All he sees is death, and he locks eyes with the decapitated head, which unfortunately still has its eyes kind of wide open and seemingly staring at him. And he can't help but wonder, as this image he imagined is just burned into his mind, he can't help but wonder how many faces that he's killed, he's forgotten. It's not a victory for him. It's just the beginning. And as Darius says success, we got to keep going. He just kind of sighs and wonder how he's got himself back in this position, back into another war. And he says, "You're right. Let's get going."
And as you call your men to rank to leave, I remember you saw the one knocked out initiate if you want to do anything with him. But among your dead, there are 2 of the Karn soldiers and 2 of the elves that came with you, so 4 dead. And one of them is Sylvanas, this young commander, this young captain, this young ambitious man, I guess elf, who had so much life left, only 150 years old.
Darius would go to his body, almost specifically, crouch down before him, closing his eyes and paying respect to what could have been, what should have been, a life well lived.
Leyen, as he does so, he would sort of go around and, for the other dead, the initiate included, he would sort of kneel where the bodies are. If they're dismembered, he would sort of position them so their bodies are mostly intact, and he would just start saying some words, and you would just see this sort of, not really see, but especially for Lafarin, being a druid, he would sort of sense this sort of natural energy sort of permeating around him as he performs what you assume to be rudimentary funeral rites. Just maybe lighting some incense, or maybe laying some herbs around, sort of mask the scent of blood.
There's not time for that. This is a war.
You're right. I should know better. Let's get going. We'll gather the dead afterwards.
Lane just closes his eyes and he packs up his stuff and stands up and goes, I do not hunt for sport. This is not what I do. I got too caught up. He says he says something, but you don't really hear what he's frustrated. He doesn't really know what to do in this situation, but you're right. When you're right, you're right.
As you say that, he would say that it's not something that you did, but it's something you're doing now. There's no time for remorse in a war. You are a killer, and if you're not, then you're dead. We chose this path. There's no backing out from it now. And then that's like, basically I'm saying that to try to be like, what's the word? I'm like reassuring, but it's probably not coming off that way. It's like, yeah, you're a killer now, so accept the fact that you're a killer and don't feel bad about it.
You could also run away. Give up the people you swore an oath to.
Yes.
I swore no oath. They just had me around.
And as we're leaving, I kind of think back to that Convoker, that young Convoker that I made eye contact with, and I can't help but think what would have happened if we did stop and talk. And it saddens me because I know that that was not an option.
So are you taking the one unconscious one back with you?
No, we're killing that son of a bitch.
Killing him?
Well, really?
I'd actually recommend that we take him back. Maybe get some information from him. Then kill him.
You're gonna have to stop me from literally chopping his head off. Then
I'd probably.
It's up to you. If you stop me, you stop me. But if you say you stop me, you stop me. But I'm definitely going, and like, I don't take prisoners.
I imagine you're like in the process of removing the head, and I literally catch you like mid-swing. It's like, no. Better idea.
In which case, I would just walk on then.
Okay. So you guys make it back, no problem. You can take the unconscious one with you, and your band of wounded soldiers And you make it back to the edge, no problem. The encampment's burning. You can see it in the distance. And the Convokers seem to have left for now.
Well, it seems our aim has been reached. They're gone. Let's see if we can get something out of him. He says he sort of inclines his head to the unconscious Convoker initiate. Doubtful, but maybe. He says he puts the pipe back up to his lips, almost perpetually there when he's not either talking or fighting. You seem to notice.
So you want to interrogate the initiate?
When he wakes up.
Okay. Yeah, so as you guys arrive back at the fortress, the edge, you make your way back into the command hall, and Commander Rowan is sitting in a chair before the map again, and you see that the shield that had been approaching up the pass has been removed. It seems that he was more successful than he thought he would be with the initial attack on them. He would look up at you as you entered. So what happened? Are they gone?
Nearest to probably look up at the map and just remove the symbol for the Convokers and hand it to him. They're gone.
He would nod. Good. Good. That's 2 big obstacles out of our way. There's still the matter of the siege equipment and the 1,000 soldiers, though.
We got a prisoner back. We managed to knock one unconscious and we brought them back, so maybe they could give some kind of clue as to how to approach the remaining 2 obstacles.
He nods. Very well. Do you have some way of awaking this prisoner? And he kind of like nods towards the young man over your shoulder.
I reach into a pouch and maybe pull out some of the herbs I use, materials for my various spells, and I sort of sniff at it and go, if this doesn't wake him up, I don't know what will. And it sort of, as he pulls it out, it's just, the smell around him just instantly grows rancid. This is probably the most foul-smelling fresh herb you have ever friggin' smelled. And I imagine Farm will actually recognize it as is one of the cheapest tobaccos you can probably get.
What's it called, Lefarin?
It is called... Shit.
Well, it's called shit by many, but...
Yeah, it's called shit by him, but Celia weed.
It's called what?
Celia weed.
Celia weed. Yeah, so as you pull this Celia weed out of your pocket, it's kind of got like a... Oh, Celia weed. And it's got kind of this like a blackish tint to it. And yeah, like you said, it smells rancid. It smells like somebody threw up and just let it sit there for days. And so as you kind of pull this out and you shove it like almost into the initiate's nose, you see him stir and shake his head, and then his mouth, like, he grimaces and then retches all over the floor.
And I back away a bit as he does so, just giving him putting distance from that. I put it back in my pocket, just cough a couple of times, and sort of crouch down next to him, and don't really see anything, just sort of watch him.
Yeah, he shakes his head and looks up, his eyes bleary, his throat red from where you choked him to knock him out. And he sees you all sitting around him, and he kind of like sits up like higher in his chair and starts like pushing away. He's terrified. He's maybe 20, 25 years old, a young man again. Human.
I would look at Darius and Leon expectantly. Leon, sorry. Well, get on with it. This is your idea.
Lane kind of sighs as he put the burden on him. He was half hoping that you were gonna volunteer to interrogate him. But he stands up and anywhere, so he doesn't really mind and sort of scooching away in the chair. And he goes, "I'm not gonna hurt you. I just want information."
As you say, you aren't gonna hurt him. I approach from behind, pulling out my war pick from the side of my belt, and scrape the side of it along part of him and kind of lick him and say, "I didn't promise anything. I was trying to do a good cop, bad cop."
Go ahead and give me intimidation.
Should I roll diplomacy along with that?
Sure. Go ahead and roll me persuasion.
All right.
It's
All
a
right, I
good cop
forgot to
versus
call
bad cop contest.
Penalty to charisma. Oh, that's actually not bad. 16.
16. And what'd you get, Michael? 12. Okay. He kind of like sits back in his chair and he's like, I don't know anything. I'm just an initiate. I'm from Talmor. I don't. And he kind of just like he's like pushing back in his chair, like trying to get away from the two of you. But obviously he's against a wall, so there's nowhere to go.
And yeah, it's sort of. He nervously says this. I just come in closer and put up my hand and sort of showing I'm not armed. I don't have any torture tools or anything. And I just say, I don't care about what you know about the Convocation. I want to know about the battlements outside. I want to know about the troops. You've been around there for a bit, and if you don't know anything, well, I indicate to the intimidating friend over there, he may not like a simple no.
I mean, I can give you numbers. I don't. I mean, I don't know much about the plans. Just a little. I'm just an initiate. I know very. I don't. He kind of like buries his head in his hands.
As he's kind of saying this, stammering, Darius is stretching his arms, and then he grabs a cheap-looking chair, maybe from one of the walls, and starts to kind of prepare to practice swinging against this thing. But stops as this guy's head enters his hands, knowing he won't be able to see it, and then just kicks the chair, making a loud noise.
Yeah, he'd sit up all jumpy, like, and look at the chair on the floor now, and then look between all of you.
I do not want to hurt you in any particular manner. I just want what you know. And I can promise you, I and he probably won't hurt you, assuming you give us what you know.
And he kind of takes a big gulp and just nods, like, I'll tell you what I want to know. What you want to know.
Is there a way to approach the siege weapons without getting caught by the infantry or cavalry?
He would kind of shift nervously. As far as I'm aware, from the front and the sides, no. And he kind of goes quiet for a second.
But
I'd probably just kind of, in this silent moment, walk over and put the edge just lightly against the back of his neck and say, "What about that side?"
And he would slowly nod and say, "The supply train that's coming from Iridos is not very protected. I mean, there are elves among it. Face paint. I mean, I'm sure you could slip in with the rest of the supply train easily."
All right. And what else would be useful? And he kind of looks over to Rowan and takes a look at the map again. Right. Shift schedule, if you would know anything about that. When are the soldiers most active and when aren't they?
Well, I mean, I think that's obvious. I mean, during the day, everyone's moving about, preparing weapons, moving supplies. It's nighttime. That's when most of the camp goes to sleep. All that's left are a few sentries and guards. It's the same in any encampment.
I figured as much, but considering circumstances, it doesn't hurt to be careful, now does it? As he sort of indicates to LaFern and Rowan.
Lafarin is completely and utterly like annoyed with this all. He's not really getting like much from it, and it's just a waste of time. He's like seconds away from killing this kid.
I'd kind of kneel down at him. It's like, you wouldn't happen to know where those sentries are, or have any idea about those patrols, would you? Because even if everyone else is asleep, something tells me they aren't.
I mean, we don't really work. We're helping their army, yes, but we're not part of the Iridos. I mean, their sentries and their guard shifts are up to them. We don't really play a role in any of that. I'm just an initiate. I don't. And he kind of just buries his head in his hands. I don't even want to be here. I don't know what's going on.
It's at that point that the Farin holds out his hand, and kind of bursting out is this vine-like whip that goes around this initiate's neck, and thorns start to like dig in. I imagine it happens like basically right in front of Darius's face as he's like dragging the knife kind of like almost just like hintingly or suggestively across the back of his neck. I just come in like a bull and just wrap this vine around his neck and then pull him to the ground 10 feet closer to me. I have this initiate right in my face at this point. Do you have anything else to tell us of use? I'm starting to choke the life out of him. I imagine he can't really speak. If he does try to do so, I would ease up the tension a bit.
He kind of is like choking, and you hear like a whisper, "Drakes, drakes."
What of these drakes?
And he kind of, as you ease the tension off a little bit around his throat, they're scaling the wall tomorrow. With the caravan, they've brought maybe 100 or so drakes, and they're going to climb the wall tomorrow beneath the fortress, right up into the fortress.
Now that is useful. And as he says this, he brings his weapon down straight on this guy's leg, completely crippling it so he can't walk anymore. Alright. Take him to the dungeon. Might be able to ransom him or kill him. I don't care anymore.
If you let me, Ty, I'm just gonna snap his neck.
You're just gonna snap his neck?
Yeah.
Does anyone try and stop him as they see him like tightening the vine?
I'm not into the whole torturing thing. Like, there's no point keeping this prisoner. I just kind of give like Darius a dirty look, actually, and I'm just like, I'm putting him out of his misery, and then going to snap it. You probably have like a second to act if you do so.
I imagine Leyen would sort of object, but he hesitated for one moment too long, and it's just by the time he actually speaks up, you've already, the bones are already cracking.
It's more painful when they have hope. I agree. Let's get ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, right before the vine snaps his neck, his eyes would widen. And he would like whisper no as his neck cracks and he falls over.
I would see Leyen kind of like uncomfortable, and I would tell him, "I look at this. Look at him. This is what war is. It's this and a whole lot more. If you're uncomfortable with it, then you're in the wrong place."
I look LaFarn straight in the eyes. He says this and just... I shake my head at that and go, "You sure look at home in the war zone, eh?"
More than I wish to admit.
He brings the pipe back out to his lips, just start smoking a slightly less rancid tobacco, and he just walks out. You know that he is more at home in nature, where sort of the law of beasts dictate how things go. He is not used to this, and he does not like it.
As you walk out, there's a bit of envy in LaFarin's eyes that you don't see. He wishes that that side of him existed.
I kind of see that and watch and say, be happy for him. He isn't growing up in the city, watching our young grow, to be soldiers to die in this war. So, with that, I take it we prepare for what's next?
Well, now we have a new threat of the Drakes flanking us. So I believe that puts us at another 3 issues, if I'm not mistaken. The Drakes, the Trebuchets, and the massive army. I would look to actually Rowan while saying this.
Rowan would say the army isn't a problem. It's the trebuchets, and the attack tomorrow is what we really need to prepare for. The trebuchets won't be able to do anything until they're actually set up, but this attack, that takes the most important lead. Every one of you, guide the men as you will. Prepare for this attack tomorrow. We must do all we can to prepare to repel this attack.
Mm-hmm.
So what is everybody going to do to prepare?
Short rest to get some.
Yeah, go ahead. You can short rest. Go ahead.
Hit dice back.
Likewise. Oh, frick, I think I need to use all for the amount of HP I lost.
When I short rest, I get I think like a couple of spell slots back. I'll check the certain amount, but I'm just letting you know.
I don't know if a ranger gets that.
No, mine's part of my natural recovery from the circle of the land.
Like something to check. I don't think so, but
D10s.
yep.
Combined less than half. Yeah, so I get both of my spell slots back. And then with that, all I need is like an hour of meditation, and I will be watching with every grain as my perception to make sure that the attack doesn't come earlier or any signs of it.
Okay.
Some would say that I'm a pretty observant person.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right.
Let's pick the observant feat.
Oh, that means like you can't be surprised. That's right. Oh yeah, something like that.
I don't think it's that
Can I-
one. That's alert.
That alert.
I believe I think an observant is a bonus to your passive perception.
Yep. It's just a stat bump and super passive obsession or perception.
Yeah,
So
I
you
would,
What was it like? +5, +10?
Yep.
I would need some time to kind of sit there and just not really care and just kind of relax. Maybe even get some sleep for a nice, long, restful time, you could say, if I were to get my spells back.
Okay. So, as time passes, Lufaran, I'm guessing you're kind of sitting off by yourself, yeah?
What I actually do is I wild shape into my wolf form, which is this just bright yellow-eyed wolf that looks completely like the alpha of his pack, but is scarred and like old as shit. He has patches of like bald hair, and this is the form that I feel most comfortable in. When I actually left Alfheim and basically was exiled, I for many years just stayed in this form and almost like adapted it as my true form. So I'm standing. I basically imagine if there's like some kind of like cliffside or something, I'm just sitting in my wolf form and looking out over the back end or the flank of the fortress where he said they would be coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, as you're sitting there, kind of just staring off in the distance, a figure would approach you from behind and sit down next to you. And if you were to look over, you would see Celise Gray, the princess. And she looks over at you as you're looking at her. His name was Aiden. I don't know if that means anything to you, but that Convoker you killed, his name was Aiden.
I look at her, and in wolf form, I don't say anything, but I imagine she's like staring at me, and I know that I'm not getting out of it without saying anything. So I would shapeshift back into human form. How did you know his name?
Every Convoker, they carry a rune stone with their name on it. I found his. Like you said, he was from Talmor, actually.
I didn't enjoy what happened there. I hope you know that.
I don't expect you to enjoy war or killing. I don't expect anyone to. I know I don't enjoy this war. There's something profoundly wrong with war. It destroys in moments what men and people spend their lives creating. It's just profoundly wrong, but for some reason wholly necessary.
And just so I get this right before I go off on a tangent, she is of Karn descendant, right? Like she's not our side?
No, she's half elf.
Okay. So she's not Alfheim, she is from the Karn side?
Yeah, so she's from Karn, but her family descends out of Alfheim.
And I would look at her then and say, is it really necessary though?
In some ways. Men will always find a reason to fight with each other. It's about who needs to be right and who can't be wrong.
Senior people live to fight. How many wars has Karn been through? Civil, against others. It seems like it's all your family line was born to do, yet you say you don't enjoy it. Why did you? I guess it's not you. But why does your family insist on the destruction of others?
The storm's coming. You see, a long time ago when my family first came to Karn, we are a long line of Elven shaman. Our first descendant, he saw something in the storms, crackling red and black. He saw something dark. And from the ruins of old Kazrin, we discovered the storm. We know what the storm is, what's coming. It's darker and full of abominations and strange things that you can't comprehend, that we can't. Like I said, this world will be consumed by it. And we need to become strong enough to survive it.
It's funny. That's one way to look at it. But another is that your shaman saw a storm and made it what he needed it to be.
That's one way of interpreting it, I suppose.
Just because it's a storm doesn't mean that hundreds or thousands need to die. He chose that. But I digress. It's none of my business. I'm just a soldier, right?
No, you're not just a soldier. You're a person. You're living, breathing, striving to be better. Something that honest men should do before they look to fight. And she would reach into her satchel and pull out an orb. And it's old and cracked, but you see that it's covered in runes and made of stone. And she set it down next to you. This is one of the few things that we have as proof of the storm to come. It's an artifact from Old Kazrin. I don't know how many of them exist, but, well, feel for yourself. You practice the way, you'd understand. So do you pick it up?
Yeah.
Roll me an Arcana check.
Okay. I'm not that best at that. 10.
Okay. You don't understand what it is you feel. But the moment your hands close around it, it feels like there's a storm inside of this ball. Whatever this thing is, you feel a void of crackling chaotic energy just beyond your reach. It's incredibly powerful, but terrifying. As you hold the stone orb, you feel the ability to destroy, but also to create. But not to create anything good, to create abominations and monsters. How do you react to this?
I look at her and I say, yes, I can feel this. And you said that your shaman looked or seen something like this and felt the need to destroy civilizations, to conquer. It's funny. What I feel is a need more than ever to come together as one, a nation united as one. You see, things are what you make it. The storm is what you make it. Hopefully, what Karn and your father has made it is the right decision.
And she would look at you and take the orb back and hold it in her hand, looking at it. Perhaps you're right. Perhaps we made out of the storm what we didn't need to. But we made it nonetheless. I wouldn't judge you if you chose to walk out right now.
All I care about is Alfheim. It's all I've ever cared about. And with not many years left, the last thing I can do is try to protect the next generation of my people. People like Leon or Darius, with still many years left. I don't want to see Alfheim burn. And if it means siding with you, then it is what it is. You know how I feel about this. But regardless, I will never walk out on Alfheim.
And she would slowly nod. Very well. Just remember that when the storm does come, that I did warn you. And she would stand to her feet and put a hand on your shoulder as you walk past. And she says, don't forget the names of those you killed. It's what keeps you human. It's what keeps you... It's what helps you maintain your humanity. And then she'd walk away.
And as she walks away, Lufarin does everything that he can to remember the name of the initiate that he just killed. But for the life of him, he can't remember what she just said.
Okay. Dawn breaks. And as the sun rises, a loud horn sounds over the fortress, the edge. It's going to be a skill check challenge. So, as the drakes start pouring up the wall, you can use spells, you can use a specific skill. I'll leave it up to you guys, but roll initiative.
Right. Fresh in the morning. Alright, I have an advantage on initiative. How could I forget? Okay, then.
Okay, so we'll start with land. And then it's
Alright.
Karin, and then Drake Riders, and then very end is Dreas. Or Darius. Okay, go ahead.
Alright.
This is a skill challenge. It means you're using your just use skills and other spells and other abilities to try and stop these things from scaling the wall. A drake is like a wingless dragon. It's like a much smaller version of a dragon, maybe the size of like a horse and a half.
Okay.
So, as we're sort of positioned on the wall, and we just see these drakes starting to clamber up, and maybe there's one in front or something or other, and I just draw my bow, and you notice there are blunted arrows at the tip. And what he does is he sort of just aims down, and sort of, with one eye closed, and he aims right for, sort of the underside of the drake. And he fires off an arrow, which I'm going to dual cast with Ensnaring Strike.
So you're gonna ensnare a part of the wall to try and make them like get stuck?
Well, I'm trying to do... Basically what I'm trying to do is hit just the underbelly of this thing, and ensnare it so that it hopefully immobilizes it. Which, I don't know Drake biology, so maybe that keeps it stuck, or maybe it sort of loses momentum and just falls down. Either way is good for me.
Okay. So just give me a ranged attack then.
Alright. That would be a 19.
Okay. Yeah, the ensnaring strike, actually what it does is as these vines sprout from beneath this thing, it forces the claws out of the wall, and Ryder and Drake plummet to the ground.
And for the record, to break it, it is a strength save if that'll come up eventually.
Okay. All right, Lufarin.
Lufarin stands on basically the ledge of the cliff looking down. And how many of these does he see climbing up again, sorry?
So they brought in about 100 drakes. So like right now there are maybe about like 10 or 15 climbing, and the rest are kind of gathering and starting to go up at the base.
He starts chanting to the earth itself. He thinks of Alfheim and the trees or whatnot. And as he does so, he starts to cast plant growth. And basically, whatever vegetation is on the side of this cliff, I imagine it's probably not a whole lot, but it's going to just become super thick and overgrown. And in a 100-foot radius, it's going to make all creatures' movements 4 feet for every 1 feet. So essentially double difficult terrain.
Yeah, you see these drakes. They're trying to climb through this. Like it's almost essentially like all the lichen, all of the
Yeah.
thorns and the weeds growing out of the side of this thing just explode outwards, almost creating kind of like a grassy jungle. And lots of them actually lose their footing and start falling backwards. But just as many that fall are still climbing.
Absolutely. I imagine it just becomes incredibly difficult to navigate through that nonetheless in a pretty huge radius.
Yeah, so a couple of arrows come flying up past you. They're not even close though. Like they're only maybe a fourth of the way up the wall so far. But on to Darius.
Darius sees them all coming up, standing there with staff in hand, raising one of them as magical energy comes out of his palm, forming a shape, eventually turning into one of his hand axes as he grips it and tries to throw it down there.
Hey, just go ahead and just give me a ranged attack then. $11? Yeah. So as your hand axe goes hurtling down towards these creatures climbing up the edge, I mean, it gets caught on like a vine. It just spins out of control, not hitting anything.
The expert rolls keep on coming.
Yeah, I think it says like all the nat 20s. I don't think I believe that. Going on to Lan. Remember, you can use skills as well to do your turns.
Yeah.
Those are going to be just as effective as attacks.
I want to do something, but I don't know if that'll be helpful to the group. So I'll wait on that. But hopefully I'll be able to do it eventually. Either way, what I do is okay. What I do is I take 2 arrows, two of the sharper arrows I got, and I sort of start tying sort of a light rope to the ends of to the sort of shaft of both. And what I do is I after I've done that, I notch them both and I aim for 2 drakes down below, sort of aiming them on angles. And basically the idea is I want to pierce either the drakes or their riders, and basically bind them together so if they move in either direction too fast or too slow, they'll just end up falling, both of them.
Okay, make me a ranged attack then with a -3 because of this rope tied to him.
All right. For both.
Just one attack, -3.
Of all the times, 2.
Yeah, your arrows, like, I mean, it was a good idea, but the rope gets caught up on the string. The arrows just kind of like, boop, and just like fall off the edge.
And I just see this just non-amused expression on his face as he swore this was gonna work, and just see them plop usually off the wall and just fall down.
Yeah, you see soldiers on all sides of you pushing rocks off the edge. One of them tips a cauldron of burning pitch over the edge as well, taking out a couple of these climbing drakes. Okay, so then next up then is Lafarin.
All right, so Lafarin wants to use perception to basically find a large gathering of drakes kind of climbing up, at which point he will then hopefully see like an optimal pile of rocks and or pitch to like drop down and maximize the AoE.
Yeah, go ahead and give me a perception check.
All right, and that's a 17.
Perfect. Yeah, for the purpose of this encounter, DC is 16 for skill checks.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so you succeed. And you there's actually very conveniently a cauldron of pitch sitting right there.
I would just pour that over as I watch it fall down.
You hear sweet screams from beneath you. As actually the grass also lights on fire in that area. Hey, there he goes. Hey.
Again. Hey,
Sweet.
yo, his internet sucks.
So I think everybody succeeded on the. No, never mind. 2 of you guys have failed. Layan and Darius both failed, and Darius dropped. So I'll just. I guess I'll do Darius's turn for him. If this is internet stuff, he's not gonna be back for like 15 minutes or 10 minutes. So
Okay, so
I guess I'll just have him use.
Kill us.
Yeah, he'll kill you guys. You use magic missile to knock 3 riders off of their drakes, or to try to.
Mm.
So I'll have all
All
3
right.
of them make strength saves to see if they stay on. Okay, 3 of them fall. They actually tip right off the edge of their drakes, and their drakes kind of stand there confused at what to do now. Okay, next up then is at the top of the order again. You guys have 1 more round, and you guys need at least 2 more successes to stop this forward invasion.
Okay, so what Layan does is he looks over the wall and sees that the cauldrons of boiling pitch have been poured, the rocks have been thrown, and that actually some of the vines and grass has just been lit on fire down there. But what he does is he drops his bow, and he pulls out his spear, sort of the butt end of it first, and he stands up on the edge, and he just sort of lets himself fall as I'm going to attempt acrobatics to grab onto the vines and just sort of try to maybe clamber down, maybe sort of knock off anything that actually comes in close.
Okay, go ahead and give me acrobatics.
And the only reason I'm attempting this is because revised ranger means difficult terrain does not affect me.
Okay, sweet.
Yes, natural 16.
That will succeed. So you manage to fall and grab onto the vines, and you start swinging your spear at anything that comes close enough. Okay.
He just
Karn.
made something really awesome.
So for your turn, I had you magic missile people off the wall. So I didn't know when you were going to be back.
Yeah, the biggest
And
thing
well,
is
I
that
jumped down onto the wall, grabbed onto a few ones, and started swinging with my spear at everything and anything that moved.
I'll let Michael do something for my turn if he wants to do something, since I've already got to do 2 things.
Hey, go ahead.
Oh no, it's okay.
All right.
I can wait till my turn. No break.
In which case, I will, as an action, whistle out, and it kind of echoes across the mountainous terrain, and it basically sounds like a call for a bird. In which point, I too will cinematically jump off the side of the cliff, and I am casting my last 3rd level spell slot to conjure animals, and the animal I am going to conjure is a giant eagle. And as I drop and start plummeting thousands of feet down, or hundreds of feet at a time, an eagle would swoop underneath me and pick me up. And I am going to just basically, at that point, pull out. I guess that's my action, so I don't know really what that accomplished now that I think about it.
Well, your eagle can still do stuff, so it can like start plucking people off the wall.
Yeah, that's what I'll do with it, so I don't completely waste my turn. And it can do 2 attacks, so it will do a beak and a talon attack, which are 15 and 19. So 1 hits and 1 doesn't, I imagine.
Yeah, 1 hits, 1 doesn't. Okay. Yeah, it picks one up and just throws him off the edge of the cliff, like in The Hobbit with the wargs. Picks one up and lobs him.
Yeah.
Okay, last up, Darius. 1 more success to finish this.
All right. So, basically, just all that's really changed is now one person is in the air on half a griffin, and another person is on a vine on the wall.
We both jumped off. That's
Okay.
all the cool kids are doing.
Yeah, that's all the cool kids jump. Come on, do it.
All right. Then I'm going to pull out my war pick. And first I'm just going to set my staff, prop it against the wall. And I'm going to jump and try to hook onto something and just like push one off using my war pick to catch into the wall.
Okay, make me an athletics check.
All right. So. Nope. Okay. All right. I got a 17 there.
That is enough. You land on the back, you hook some dude off the edge of his drake and like pull yourself into the saddle and start thrashing his tail around at people.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, so the other riders and their drakes, realizing that attempt to climb anymore is futile, they retreat, like having lost like half their number.
I'm keeping this.
Okay. And as you're all hanging off the wall or flying on the back of an eagle, you see a griffin approaching. Majestic. Yeah, you are. You see an eagle approaching, and on its back a convoker. And you immediately realize that the person riding the griffin is Arundel. And he flies up level with you all. This is your last chance. Please surrender.
And what if we did? What would become?
And what if we didn't?
It's too late now. Hundreds have died. Don't act like it's not like this.
And his mouth would open and close several times. I'm not even supposed to be here. I'm trying to offer you a chance. Can't you see that?
What does Darius and Leon say?
Lan, he looks a little far and he looks at Darius and he looks at Arundel, and he just looking down at the retreating Drake Riders. He doesn't really know how to reply. He can't say he has any love for the war. He has no loyalties per se in Alfheim. He couldn't really care less if he didn't belong there. He's never been one for people. But this is something different. So he just looks at him and he gives him sort of Arundel, that is, he gives him sort of a sad nod as he goes, I don't think I'm gonna fight much more. I can't promise for them though. I'm not one of them. Just got wrapped up in all this.
Kind of look at the other two of you.
Darius, sitting atop his new mount, looks at this Convoker, who's younger than him, sighing. Many have died. I will not pretend to want any more to. All are young. Ours, yours, theirs. Too many. But, and I want no more to die. But, I cannot let them die in vain. I will not be the last standing, though. If everyone else falls, there'll be no point. So basically, he's gonna not be the last one. He's not gonna go out fighting if there's no reason to it.
And so he turns to Lafarin. And you see a pleading in his eyes.
Lafarin would meet his eyes with the same kind of desperation. But he's just one Convoker, and we're just 3 elves. This is so much bigger than the 4 of us. And he looks to him and says, "You know we can't. You know that if we do, that we just die. So it's come to. I'm not going to say that my side's right or that your side's right. But this is bigger than all of us, the 4 of us. Something is coming. And I'm afraid that my side, the Confederation of Karn, may have chosen the wrong path, but it's a one-way path. You know this, and so do I."
You just see anxiety and frustration. Just tell your commander to surrender the fort. They won't have to do it if you just surrender the fort.
If we surrender the fort, then all of my people die. This isn't a war of prisoners. Your initiate, your whatever you call them, I killed him. I looked him dead in the eyes and I took his life. You'd allow me to surrender and live beside you knowing that.
And his eyes would kind of widen. You killed Aiden.
Shake my head, yes.
But he was a prisoner of war. He did nothing.
He chose to fight a war. As did you, as did I.
Yeah, and his face would darken. And you'd see anger and confusion. And he'd look down. And you'd be just close enough to hear him say, "Everybody's the same, aren't they?" And he'd look back up at you. And he'd just shake his head. And he'd say, "I tried. It's the least I can say is I tried." And as you look at him, you'd see shadows coming out of the clouds. And as you watch, row upon row of griffin come soaring down out of the clouds. Standing at the head of them, you see that they have their hands raised and they appear to be chanting something. And like straight up out of Avatar, on like the front of the airships of the Fire Nation, they literally start torching Alfheim. You watch as the massive dire oaks go up in flame. You watch as fire and death consume this vast forest, this forest nation of Alfheim, and the tattooed elves who live there, your people. And Arendelle looks back at you one last time and shakes his head. "I tried to end the war peacefully. You forced my hand. Our hand. I did not make this choice, but you did.
Darius would look at him. Before, it was almost a pleading. He would fight as long as there was someone to fight for, someone to fight next to, with. But this is different. Their cities, their towns, villages, homes, their children lived in that forest. Innocents. People who did nothing wrong. Who likely would do nothing wrong. Just because, in some roundabout way, they were associated with him. He might have done some wrong things in the war. With his ally here, who, yes, killed an innocent harmless prisoner. With so many others. But they themselves did nothing. And yet this hero, so he calls himself, claims to fight for the innocent. No, he is no hero. He is the villain. He is the evil. And with that, he speaks angrily. This may be the end of one fight, and I will lay down my blade now. But this is far worse than anything my blade or my spells have ever or would ever do before. Good day, Convoker. With that, he rides up to the fort, knowing the war is lost. This one, at least.
I imagine as you sort of hang there / glide, the heat is just it's palpable. Just the dire oaks going up in flames, just tree after tree just catching fire and beginning to burn. Even from this high up on the needle, you can still feel the waves of heat just roll over. And Lane would just grit his teeth and look at Arendelle with bile, just pure, unadulterated hatred. This is he's not. This would probably strike a bigger chord with Farin, but this is genocide. This is maddening scales of violence to him. He can't comprehend just what kind of mortal force could do this, decide this was the correct course of action. And he just, almost not even registering, not even processing correctly the sight that's before him. He squeezes onto the vines and just he looks back at the Convoker and just mentally measures out the distance between them, whether he could jump, whether he could do something to him, but he can't at his angle. And he's just stuck sitting there watching. And he resolves that as long as he's gonna live, he's gonna try his hardest, his whatever centuries he's got left, he's gonna try and fix this damage, but he knows he can't. And he is never going to see eye to eye with a Convocation after this. No matter what individual action they take, no matter what they decide to do, this is reprehensible on every level.
Yeah, this entire time he's just shaking his head and saying, "I'm so sorry." And he's like whispering, "It wasn't my choice to make. I didn't have any say in this. I don't." And he just seems at a loss for words also. He's witnessing this destruction with you.
As for Lauren Fell, he sees this going his entire life. 791 years has been just in the servitude of Alfheim. And he knows in this moment that that man before him is no more evil than he is. He sees almost the entire scene as a shade of gray, as he knows at that moment that there not necessarily is any good or evil. He's made absolutely terrible decisions and done terrible things in his life to protect his people. And he thinks of all the choices he's made and realizes that none of them did what he wanted to do. So was it wasted? Was all the killing, was all of the things that he's done just a waste? But it doesn't matter to him anymore. He sees his home burning. He sees all the people that he cares about burning. And without a look at Arundel, he would soar up to the sky and try to engage these Convokers. Now, I know that this is absolutely pointless. So you can describe as he charges in, he's going down and taking out as many of them as he can.
It's not just pointless, it's suicidal.
He knows this.
As you charge the ranks, you manage to catch one griffin and its rider completely off guard. They didn't expect any air defense at all. And you're able to toss the rider from his mount. And your eagle and your blade tear the griffin apart. But that's all you get. As this one Convoker dies, 5 converge on you. And your eagle is promptly killed. You're promptly thrown from the saddle, from your mount, and you're falling. Your body is burning, and you're falling into the mist, into the smoke that's billowing up from Alfheim. And the destruction continues.
As he's falling, the last thing he sees is the kind of shadow of Arundel and his two comrades. And he just thinks of when Arundel told him to stop. What would have happened if he somehow convinced Alfheim not to go to war? What would have happened? And he wonders to himself, if anything, any one person could stop this, and he doesn't think so. And then lastly, he thinks of the storm that he felt coming, this manifestation of absolute chaos and basically true evil. And he knows that in no way are the steps being taken to stop it from coming, as I imagine he hits the ground a burning mess and basically is no more.
Yeah, as you're watching Arundel, the other 2 of you who stayed behind, who watched Lafarin go, he's crying at this point. And he shakes his head and kind of just wipes his tears away. And looks back at you and just says one last time, "I'm sorry," before following the rest of the group as the torching of Alfheim continues. So we're going to fast forward a year now. The Confederation has ended, brought to its knees by one fell swoop from the Convocation. The burning of Alfheim devastating, its ally gone. It was not long before Karn knelt as well. But you've been summoned to a meeting. You see, as the doors open before you, in this long-forgotten crypt, these massive doors, that within the room are 5 other individuals. You see Celise Gray, the now queen of Karn. You see Fendithas Aran, the chief of what is now Charwood, which was once Alfheim, her husband. You see Commander Rowan. And you see 2 other figures, one hulking, one large but not quite as large. And you realize, as the large one steps out into the light, the huge one, that it is a giant. A stone giant. And you recognize him as Lothos Stoneskin. He commands the giants of Krieg. He was the giant who knelt to the Convocation when they laid waste to his people as well. The other steps out of the shadow, and you recognize him as a chief among the clans of the Stonebreaker Glacier. Those savage clans, those raiders and warriors. And as they look at you, Celise nods and says, "Welcome." And she would turn and look behind her and beckon. And you see a burnt and scarred elf, torn and sundered, dying, old and gray. These many years you thought he died, but before you stands a cripple of Lufarin. No longer a warrior, no longer a soldier, but just as determined as you remember. And before you is a large paper, a scroll. And as you approach the table the scroll rests upon, you read upon it, and you see the signatures, the Reclamation Pact. And Celise looks up at each of you. "If you will make our cause yours, then sign." At this, Rowan leaves. He does not want any more war. And she nods. "Very well. We will reclaim what is ours and take it all back. We must be stronger for the coming storm." And that is where we'll end the session.
Dang, son.
So that was session 3.5. We didn't have Harry here tonight, so that's why we had to do this little half session for anyone who watched the whole thing. Let's go ahead and do last thoughts. We'll go from Chris and end with Michael. Oh, Chris Villanueva.
All right. Last final thoughts. Darth Lufarin is pretty sick. Just want to go on paper that if he ever makes any kind of appearances anywhere, his whole entire mentality now is that everything will burn. He never wanted to see Alfheim burn before he died, but now that he has seen that, that guy's going to be pure evil. And that was a lot of fun, Tyler. As always, I can't wait for session actual 4 to get back to Sebastian, who is not nearly as brave or courageous as any of these three. But anyways, thank you, and until next time.
Perfect. Going on to Chris Logie.
Just gotta say, I loved it. I'm struggling for words here at that ending, dang. Yeah, I had a lot of fun role playing with these guys as always. I found the cameos pretty fun, and otherwise looking forward to continuing the actual main plot, which I get the feeling this is foreshadowing. You know, just a thought.
A very heavy
Just a
foreshadow.
distinct thought.
All right, on to Michael.
That was great. I loved the ending there. As I kind of saw it coming, like, not the end, but like, you know, we're going to watch this happen. Because I did know it eventually burns. I was eventually started thinking, okay, how does this character, you know, react to this? And during that initial camp, I came up with a different little piece of his character and built off of that. It's like, okay, how does that influence him? And it's just, I already fell in love with this character and want to see what ends up happening. Where does this leader in this new war go? Who I can't wait to re-meet him, for him to be reintroduced later.
Perhaps as a villain.
Yeah,
As the final boss.
I'd be okay with that. Sitting atop is now grizzled Drake. Or maybe he went up a step from Drake to, you know.
Except for dragons don't exist anymore. Well, I mean, not many, but
Just, you know, giving you a little bit of thought here, you know.
yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Well,
But yeah,
everybody. Sorry, go ahead.
but no, I can't wait to meet Evil Dares.
Definitely. So everybody, thanks for playing. This is the intermediary session between session 3 and 4. This is the War of the Broken North. And as always, great players, great game. I can't wait to get to the main plot as well. This is just kind of a sneak peek, definitely a foreshadow of kind of like what's going on behind the scenes. But yeah, thanks for playing. And as always, I hope you find yourselves in your games.